So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Erica Pandey. I cover the future of work and workforce at Axios, and I'm super excited to be here, especially because it's 1 year since the pandemic sent all of us home, and it's a really cool opportunity that we can do these on Zoom now and get people from 3 different really dynamic cities in the same place. So my first conversation is with Mayor Greg Fischer of Louisville. And I want to get right into it and ask you, Mayor Fischer, what makes you passionate about this idea of community reskilling, and what does that really mean to you?
Well, first, Erica, thanks for having me on the show here. And you've got a great job. I mean, being able to focus on the future of work, I mean, it doesn't get much more exciting than that in terms of thinking about where is all this heading, not just from the economic standpoint, but from the social standpoint as well. How's this all fit in the pandemic? How's it fit in this world of racial justice? How's it fit with partners in our communities? I just want to give a hat tip to Roger Coot, who's on this call, who's a super important partner of our city with Humana. Humana's headquartered in Louisville here. So it takes all of us to get together to have real impact. So what's passionate about this to me is this is an opportunity that we really haven't seen in a long time in terms of a generational shift toward what is the future of work. So how do we go from what happened a year ago with the pandemic, a summer and fall of racial justice marches, to take a look at this as a time of an ever globalizing world at a more rapid pace than ever before. And if you don't want to go and just crawl away and put your head in the hole, say, how can we optimize this time? So it's a wonderful time of opportunity. So fortunately, we've been working in this area for several years now. So we've had enough successes where we can see how this works well, how it's changed the trajectory of people's lives, which really is the biggest motivator to me behind this, is when you take, let's say, a single mom working 2 jobs at low wages, but just really has the desire to get out of that and get into a family supporting wage and a career. And you use technology to do that. And then you've got a corporate partner in your community, let's say Humana, for example, that's a leader in the wellness and aging care industry for the country, that says we have these needs and we have workforce needs, and then we have workforce upskilling needs, and we have social justice needs, and we can be intentional about bringing people from, frankly, not having much of a future in front of them from an economic standpoint into a life transitioning event by upskilling around future work initiatives tied to a company that will help them with mentoring, internship, and then a job. And so when you put all those things together around with some of our other intermediaries that we can talk about here, I mean, for somebody that's mayor, and I'm a business person that just happens to be mayor, I ran for office because I like to help people and lift people up. So when you use future work initiatives to do that intentionally with companies in our community, and then you see the life transforming events that take place for a family as a result of that, to me, it just doesn't get much better. So just really appreciate the opportunity at this point in time to be sitting in this chair.
So I want to go back a little bit before the pandemic, right? Reskilling was already an issue then. We knew that AI and machine learning was going to change a lot of jobs, maybe wipe out a lot of jobs. Can you tell me what Louisville was doing before March of 2020 in this space?
Yeah, so we were very interested to be a leader in artificial intelligence for good. So you see all of this change taking place. Well, the question is, how's it going to impact people? And oftentimes technology has been very brutal on folks, in our kind of capitalistic system we have in our country, which I think is a little bit overweight on the capitalist side. It's just, look, if you survive, good for you. If you don't, that's a problem. So especially when you take a look at the data sciences and AI, machine learning, data analysis and all this, I mean, there's a real potential for, job disruption that's happening, job dislocation that's happening. So the question is, from an individual standpoint for our residents here in Louisville, where does that leave you? So we'd have a partnership with Microsoft. We're one of their future of work regional centers for innovation. And so we were looking for a partner like them, and they were looking for a partner like us, so we could demonstrate how you could upskill people with this focus on AI for good. And then, of course, we've had community partners. Louisville has more companies headquartered here than any other city in the wellness and aging care space. which from a business standpoint is a great space because the demographics are growing and the market's always going to be there. So, but the question for that space is, how are we going to deliver more personalized care to more people more efficiently? So the whole new data economy, artificial intelligence, telemedicine are right in the middle of this. So what we try to do from an economic development perspective from the city is attract companies to town that are aligned with our strengths. And as I said, one of them is wellness and aging care, and work with the companies that we have in town to be an intermediary between their workforce needs and our citizens and our school system, so we can intentionally build this system to bring them along. And then when we can bring in another partner like Microsoft that has that as a corporate interest, and so we can fuel innovation with them, tie them in with one of their customers here, Humana. That's how it all comes together.
So take me back now. So you're working on AI for good before the pandemic. Take me back to inside City Hall in Louisville a year ago in March when the pandemic hit. Did you have to, did you think about reallocating budget? Did you think about stopping the reskilling work and focusing on public health? How did you reprioritize, or did you double down?
No, we doubled down because we didn't know how long the pandemic was going to last, but we already knew, and we were working with, Roger, and Roger's corporate office is probably 200 yards from where I'm sitting right now, but our conference room where we would meet and collaborate is about 15 feet from now. So we were meeting with our workforce development people and Roger and some of the Humana folks saying, okay, how are we going to design this system? How is this going to move at the right pace? So we were already addressing this question of how are we going to scale up our ability to deliver the services to the right people at the right time to be able to meet the needs of our corporate community. So the pandemic hits, and we just knew that there was going to be a lot of shifting going on in the world. So how could we use that time to accelerate even further? And so at our future work initiatives, we launched some major online programs that for people to credential themselves in one of several areas associated with the future of work. We put an incentive out there. We were going to give away a free laptop every day for a month. We had this incredible response. And we had 1,600 people credentializing themselves over that period of time. And the interesting thing about it was it was 50% women and about 20% Black Louisvillians. And so that's about our demographic, as opposed to the disproportionately white male demographic that you typically see in technology. So we're intentional with our future work initiatives to be expanding this demographic that's a national problem that there is there in technology. So we just happened to be in the right place, Erica, in terms of scaling at that point in time, but we weren't going to let the pandemic slow us down.
Right, and I love these, the specificity that you had there because you're on the ground. I write about this topic a lot, and I see a lot of big numbers, like 17 million Americans will have to find new jobs because of the pandemic, because their industries will downsize or won't need them anymore. 17 million is a huge number. It's hard to wrap your head around, even as someone who's covering it every day. What does that look like on the ground? What does that career switch or helping, a whole city think about upskilling or reskilling look like? You mentioned a few programs. What are some other ways that other mayors could be doing this?
Well, one of the key things in this is make sure your school system's involved. So we've created here in Louisville over the last 5 years with Jefferson County Public Schools. It's our public school provider. They have about 100,000 kids in the school there, something called the Academies of Louisville. And so the academies are intentionally designed to support the major economic development clusters where Louisville has a competitive advantage. So it could be logistics and e-commerce, for instance. UPS's Worldport is located here, or advanced manufacturing, or wellness and aging care, the one that I've talked about with Humana being on the call. So what does that high school experience look like for these clusters? And so for these academies. And so we have a data analytics pathway through the high school right now. So, we're socializing this notion about the changing environment of work, right? So our first value is a community of lifelong learning. And then second is health. And the third is even a more compassionate city. But this notion of constantly retooling yourself is really important. And then having partnerships with our corporate community who's really stepped up to the plate over the last 5 years to become more intentional about them stating what their needs are. So think about, they are the pull function, if you will, through the community of this is what we need. So we're pulling that through our colleges, our high schools, our out of school time programs, and then with intentionality around Black and brown communities, so that there's equity involved with this as well. So it's been really positive. I'm in my 11th year as mayor. I've got one more year left, and then I'm term limited out, but we've really put some maturity around this whole workforce development system.
I love that you're speaking to equity because, we talk about a year of the pandemic, but it's also been a year of reckoning with systemic racism. What are the ways in which how do you think about this to make sure equity is involved? Like, do you have to do things a little bit differently? Do you have to think about it consciously, or does it just happen? Like, take us through that a little bit.
Right. No, I mean, racism and institutional racism in America has been intentional. And so you need to be intentional about deconstructing it. So that means, where are you investing, with who, at what amounts, are the right support systems in place so that you can have equitable results, right? Not just equal investments. So this has been very deliberate. It's been accelerated in my community. Breonna Taylor lived in Louisville, and her tragedy took place here as well. So that's accelerated a lot of work in this space. We call it advancing racial equity, our work there. And so out of that tragedy, it's hard to say out of a tragedy, good things come. But her death has really inspired a lot of great work in our community. And I know her family's proud of that. But the whole national movement toward racial equity, we intend to be a city that demonstrates how to come out of that in a better place, whether it's investing in technology, in incubators, in accelerators, the type of pipeline from that training to a good family supporting wage in a career. We hope to demonstrate how all that can be done. And I think we're doing that, and we've got some results to show that. So you absolutely have to be intentional about that. And then you have to involve people in leadership positions that look like the community. So whether you're a little Black girl or a, little white guy, you see somebody that looks like you and says, I can be like that person. And so that requires planning and collaboration. And as I said, part of intentionality sometimes is, facing uncomfortable truths. Most white people don't like to hear that, America was built on institutional racism, right? Well, the history is very clear about that. So part of the role, certainly in my office, is to make sure people are aware of why that is and what the history is, and that we can't control the past, but we can control today and tomorrow. And then when you have corporate partners, like, again, Humana, I keep bragging on Humana because they are brag worthy. Muhammad Ali is from Louisville, and one of his favorite quotes was, if it's true, it ain't bragging. Okay, so I'm just speaking the truth here right now. But when you have a corporate partner that has the similar values and says, we want to address unjust conditions that have been historically created, that makes things a lot easier.
So that's a great transition to what I wanted to ask you about next. The public-private partnership piece of it is so important. And to make this happen, because funding is a huge issue when it comes to reskilling. There hasn't yet been any money for retraining in both COVID relief bills. The Biden administration is probably working on something workforce related, they're saying, but we haven't seen federal money yet. What do you need from the states or from the federal government or from corporate partners to make this work from a money standpoint?
Yeah, we've been at the local level just trying to piece it together with a coalition of the willing, if you will. So it's community-based organizations. The corporate community has to be involved because they have to define what the job needs are, right? And so you can see, let's say the full range would be a corporate community that's not involved, a corporate community that says, here's what we think our job needs are. And you could go all the way through the continuum with where we are as a corporate community that's involved with our high schools, our colleges, our whole system of lifelong learning. We call it Evolve 502. And then that is designed the type of program that I just spoke about. They're participants in our Summer Works program of hiring youth that may not be able to get a job because they don't have a connection. Well, imagine if you were 16-year-old black kid from the West End of Louisville, and you had a passion for technology, and you'd had a dream, of working in tech, and you get an opportunity at Humana to be part of their summer job program. They bring you into their IT functions, and all of a sudden you've got the job of your lifetime when you're a high school junior. And then they continue on with your pathway forward from that. So from that type of activity to the academies, to our engineering schools, all the way up to upskilling initiatives, working with our incubators and accelerators. That's what a mature system looks like. It shouldn't be so hard, because it took us, I don't know, Roger can say later, but 2-3 years to get this done and in place. And it's not at the scale we want it at right now. So when you think about the needs of our country in terms of rapidly changing, globalizing economy, you've got to have lifelong learning built into every step of the way. So the question is, do we make that easy for people, or is it just a dog eat dog kind of environment? I mean, people have to show initiative, sure. But people also got to be able to have childcare. They got to be able to have transportation to get to a job. So the government does have a role to play in creating this type of policy. So I'm hopeful, like the Biden administration, or there's an Relaunching America Workforce Act. It's a $15 billion workforce training initiative. I'm hopeful that will get passed. I can tell you one thing. This Biden administration loves to listen, and they love to understand what the issues are going on at the city level. They've been tremendous partners with mayors, and we were kind of excluded from the prior administration. So I think we'll be able to develop and design programs with them that we can scale at the community level, because what we do know is these jobs are changing faster than ever. So we've got to be rapid with our response as a society to make sure that people are employed in a meaningful way.
So one follow-up on that before I want to apologize. This is what happens on Zoom. You don't get a package all day, and then when you're on a call, they start ringing for it. But
you don't have any dogs running around or anything like that. So
I wanted to ask about this idea of lifelong learning. Often training isn't good politics because adults don't want to hear, I'll train you. They want to hear, I'll give you a job. And you mentioned a lot, how you get involved at the young level, especially for kids of color, getting them excited about these new roles, these jobs of the future. How do you reskill adults? How do you get someone in their 40s and 50s in Louisville excited about, forget about your old job, you're going to do this new thing, and I promise it's going to be better?
Well, we're not at a point where supply exceeds demand. So, some programs will offer a stipend, and they're, $1,000, $2,000. Other programs will offer a free laptop. And then it's very clear on, here's what the pathway looks like. Now, some of the training is just training. And like our Code Louisville program, for instance, has been a huge success. And we can talk about that more if you want. Other programs have this intentional pipeline that I spoke to you about, with mentorship available from day one. I think one of the benefits of this time of racial equity and racial reckoning we're living in is that people are identifying problems and leaning into them. So let's say that, again, you go back to that young boy, or let's just say you're a single mom with 2 kids and 2 jobs, and you want to get a job in technology, but you don't know how to do it, and you don't have the confidence to do it. So, but if you've got a mentor or somebody that's saying, you can do it, and I'm here to help you do it, and here's what the pathway looks forward together, and that makes all the difference in the world. So we're just trying to give people opportunities that may not have been born into an opportunity-rich environment, but they still have the passion. So it requires intentionality to design these kind of systems and scale these kind of systems.
So the other thing I wanted to ask you is, you've got a lot of great programs in place here that have proven to be successful. What's the next thing you're working on? What's the next thing you're trying to tackle? Can you give us a little bit behind the scenes?
It just scale. How do you go from, well, we've gone from tens to hundreds, right? So how do you go from hundreds to thousands? And then how do you build a broader system in your community where, let's say, instead of 20 companies involved, that there's 200 and then 2,000. And so, life is obviously more complex than putting a puzzle like this together, but you've got to scale it up and be intentional about the kind of jobs that you want to create with a bigger economic development strategy so that, people have the opportunity to make a good supporting wage. So innovation is not our constraint right now. It's just figuring out how to scale. Resources, funding is a part of that as well.
And are there other cities you look at where you say, I like what they're doing, I like what they're doing? Who else should folks interested in this space be thinking about and looking at?
Mayor Turner, Sylvester Turner in Houston. They're a fellow future work city. I've got a lot of respect for him as a mayor, doing good work there. They're definitely a city that I would take a look at. We've probably been together on more calls like this and talked about these issues in other cities. So he'd be good. I know Darrell Steinberg was going to be on the call, the mayor of Sacramento. We've got a lot of respect for him. Los Angeles is doing some interesting work also.
And I want to end with a fun question. You transitioned, you said, from business to politics. What's a time in your life you've had to do some reskilling?
I have to reskill every day. No, what's interesting about being in the political world is, like, when you're in the business world, if a mistake is made, the emphasis is on, fixing the mistake. In the political world, when a mistake is made, the media and political opponents want to blame, right? It's very non-productive. So I'm probably not very skilled as a politician. I just want to kind of do good work every day. I'm term limited out as a mayor. This will be my stint in public service. So my upskilling would have been on, let's say, being a better public speaker, learning how to deal with, kind of massive disruption, whether it could be an explosion that killed people or, some really unfortunate incident that took place in a city, or how do you manage a city in the midst of racial crisis and racial justice. And there's an unlimited amount of stimulation and learning opportunities here in the mayor's office.
Thank you so much, Mayor Fischer, for your time and for chatting with us about these issues.
Okay, well, thanks for your focus on this. We're happy to help anytime. Take care.
Thank you. So I want to transition now into our next piece, our moderated discussion, and I'll give everyone a second to reorient and turn their video on. All right, awesome. So I want to welcome Roger Cute of Humana, Cassandra Jennings of the Sacramento Urban League, and Sarah Tanbakuchi of M&T Bank. And I'll start by just go down the line, have each of you introduce yourselves, tell me what city you're coming from and what perspective you bring to community reskilling. And I'll start with Cassandra.
Oh, thank you. Hi, it's good to be here. My name is Cassandra Jennings, and I'm president and CEO of the Greater Sacramento Urban League in Sacramento, California. We bring the perspective of the nonprofit partner. We are a workforce development organization. We also are strong in health equity programs and advocacy for equity and justice. So in the whole work in the program that we'll talk about is that we really are sort of the local ground brokers and connectors between job seekers and employers, and do everything in between to help people realize economic self-reliance.
And then Roger, I'd love to hear from you next.
Sure, thanks, Erica, and thanks for having us on the call today. Just I'd like to say hello to everyone, and just really appreciated Mayor Fischer's comments. And I'm located in Louisville with Humana, as Mayor Fischer said, and have really working on talent, workforce development, community development, and particular focus on digital and analytic skills. Been doing that for a couple of years with Humana. And Humana is a integrated health company, everything from insurance payer, particularly focused on Medicare, Medicaid, and a large population of our TRICARE population in the military. And but we also have clinics, primary care physicians, home health nurses, and really integrated care company.
And Sarah.
Hi, so happy to be here, and great to meet everyone here. And So I am from Buffalo, New York. I work for M&T Bank. I'm a senior technology manager there, and I run essentially what is the chief of staff office for technology. So M&T Bank is a regional bank for communities. We're about 750 branches across the Northeast. And in technology right now, we're really on this journey of transformation, and it has been a tremendously exciting 2 or so years. We say we're building the soul of a software company in the heart of a community bank. So one of my responsibilities is building out a continuous learning capability in technology. So we call it the Tech Academy, to continuously train, upskill, reskill about a technology shop of roughly 1,200 or so technologists. But of course, M&T believes deeply in serving the community. And so building this continuous learning capability at such a scale is giving us the ability to look outwards and say, okay, how can we leverage this Tech Academy to help the community and partner with the community to provide technology skilling to those who may have never thought of technology as a career before. So it's probably one of the most exciting aspects of my job.
So my next question, I'll just start with you again, Sarah, because that was super interesting. We just spoke with the mayor about what roles cities and governments have in this reskilling effort. What role does the private sector play?
It's a really good question, and I think it's a very important role that the private sector plays. We talk a lot about what is the role of a good corporate citizen, what does it mean to be a bank for communities, and how can we be caretakers of the community? So, we're important from the perspective of the jobs that we'll provide to the community. We also bring a certain type of resource to play. But what I think is key when we talk about public-private partnerships, and I suspect this will be echoed by my colleagues here, the partnership aspect of it. So also acknowledging the shadow you cast as a corporation, but in order to be most successful when you talk about contributing to skilling, those partnerships are so key with, government officials, with different non-for-profits, because we all bring a different aspect to bear. And in order to best serve the ecosystem, all of that has to come together in a collaborative formation. So an important role to play, but also knowing that it is just one role among a broader coalition.
And Roger, I'd love to kick that over to you too. What role does the private sector play, and should all companies start getting involved in reskilling in their hometowns?
The answer to your last question is absolutely. I think that communities that are working together and building the system that Mayor Fischer mentioned is essential. I think, we had a wake-up call a few years ago when we had a study done, and it was done nationwide, I think, and just talked about cities that were vulnerable to the changes in technology and automation and so forth, and which communities were most vulnerable. And I think Louisville hit that list at some level. And so it was kind of a wake-up call for us. At the same time, within Humana, the healthcare industry is transforming so rapidly, and data and analytics and digital technologies are becoming such a part of everyday life in the consumer and the member and the patient for their health data and their health journey and their better health, and particularly in health equity kinds of areas that we're looking at, that we just it came together for us that we were trying to upskill and reskill our own workforce, but it really, really made a difference in the community, which is where a big part of our talent pipeline comes from, but also health equity issues. That's part of our purpose and mission as a company. So it's just integrated work. And I think what Sarah said, one of the roles that we play is a convener, and we can convene, but we are just one part of the system, because it is a lot of different pieces that the mayor talked about, reaching into the high schools, pulling all the way through to adults who may be at the early part of their career that want to change their career, adults that are in the middle part of their career that want to take a different path, and then the lifelong learning that certainly we see, and the need for skill development, upskilling, reskilling is pretty broad-based and needs to be done at scale, as the mayor said.
And Cassandra, give us the view from Sacramento. How is local government and companies working together there?
Right, and we certainly have a great partnership. I'd say it's a full-way partnership. We have government, and certainly they've been instrumental. Mayor Steinberg and the council really put CARES money on the table for reskilling and upskilling, especially in this pandemic that we're facing now. We also have the business community. So we have the Greater Sacramento Economic Council, full of over 80 business people that are able to support this for that employment side, which is so important, which we heard from Roger and Sarah. And then we also have, obviously, GA, the training partner with the expertise, because as we get people engaged, we want to make sure that they're properly skilled. And then there's partners like us, the Greater Sacramento Urban League, which we are trusted messengers and connectors to the community. And the importance of that is that when we look at inclusion and diversity, their nonprofit organizations in the Urban League, we can really get people that need the training, that want the training, that need the access there. Because in order to grow the economy, you need to build the infrastructure of your existing community. And oftentimes it's easier for us to go outside and bring them in. But we were able to really engage the community in a very diverse and equitable way, to really bring people to be and prepare them for those jobs.
And all three of you have spoken to this already, but I want to ask it just, frankly, Roger, what's the business case for companies to get involved in reskilling beyond it just being the right thing to do in your city?
Wow, I could go lots of different places on the business case. It's a couple of different things that I would start with, and one is, the overall talent and workforce development, and it's not just specific to Humana. We could take a very selfish view and say we just want to be in this to develop pipeline for our future and so forth, but that's really not the intent of anything that we do with the community, because when you start to develop talent across the community for all businesses and all areas, government and nonprofit and so forth, when you're developing talent broad-based, it creates a quality in the community that benefits everyone. And so and then we talk about, Mayor Fischer was very eloquent about the racial equity and racial justice kinds of things that we experience in our community, but I think all communities are experiencing that. And so creating the diversity of our workforce and improving that diversity is a very significant effort. And then, Erica, the last thing I would say, just in terms of business case, it's actually allowed us to change some of the things that we do inside Humana, and we're on this journey. So we're not declaring victory or saying we're done, but we've just realized that there are barriers that just are very traditional and very systemic that we've got to eliminate around entry and access and kind of getting into the entry-level jobs. And part of that skilling, but part of that are things that we've built structurally that just we're learning a lot from this work in terms of how do we just reduce those barriers for people to enter the workforce.
And Sarah, do you have any thoughts on that from the corporate side, the kind of business case to get involved in reskilling?
Yeah, I think the research is crystal clear that diverse teams make better teams. They make better decisions. They drive better outcomes. So, that is why you're mindful of the talent pipeline and how you bring diversity, equity, and inclusion into your workforce. But I would also back it up to a higher level too. We spend a lot of time talking about how cities, particularly second-tier cities, we are fighting for survival in some respects. We frame it up as the race for relevance. The fight for talent is so fierce. And I think we'll probably share some of the statistics. They say in the next 5 to 10 years, tech skills of some sort will be required for 70% of those jobs, right? So that means communities need to not only look at how they might attract talent and how they're retaining that talent that they attract, but also how they grow. And I think that is so key for us to acknowledge the fact that we need to grow this talent, invest in the talent that exists in our communities in order to remain viable, in order to compete in this new economy. So it becomes, the business case in some respects becomes so self-apparent, so self-evident. You need to do it in order to keep your existing talent base sharp and the best at their craft. But then you need to do it to reach into the pipeline and make sure that you have that diverse workforce in play that's going to make those best possible teams. So I think that's how we think about it here at the bank. And I know it resonates across organizations, private or public, right?
And Cassandra, as someone who sits in between, companies, government, you're as sort of a connector, how does a city bake equity into this, especially considering the pandemic is disproportionately hurting the jobs held by people of color, by women of color?
I think we heard before from the mayor that it's about intentionality. And so I think in Sacramento, our city has certainly said we need to be intentional about equity and about inclusive economic development. They have taken a number of ways, even before the pandemic, to provide resources so that we can focus on that. And then the partnerships with organizations like the Greater Sacramento Urban League, La Familia, Asian Resources, and many others. Our job is to make sure that we are accessing and bringing forth those communities that are often left behind, and to make sure that they're prepared. So sort of the ROI for the business person is they're getting somebody that's trained and ready for work. And that just makes a great community. And so I think for women and people of color, we have to be intentional in our programs. And when we did our digital upskilling in Sacramento, we made sure that we had a pool that was very diverse, so that at the end, there would be people that then could go through the specialized training, but there were a lot of people that didn't get that opportunity, but we were able to continue to serve them, the women and the ethnic diversity, because we always measure what we focus on. And if we're intentional about focusing on the groups that we need to get engaged, then we'll be sure to have positive results.
And then getting a little bit away from the big picture into granularity, if I'm someone who's trying to figure out how to reskill, I've got a lot of questions. How much money will it cost me? How long will it take? What will I learn? Who's going to take care of my kids while I'm off doing this, doing this training program? Sarah, as someone who helps run these types of programs, how do you answer these questions?
Those are really challenging questions, but really important ones. And actually, as we kind of step back and reflect where we are on our journey of building out the Tech Academy, we actually ended up launching a virtual skilling program that was open to the community, in many ways using some of the learnings in partnership with GA from experiences in Sacramento and Louisville. And so we're offering digital skilling in tech and user experience, digital marketing, data analysis, etc., out to community members impacted by COVID. And in order to do this, we got together with a coalition of 12 plus community partners, which inclusive of city, county, regional economic development, other corporations, training centers, etc. And we're using this opportunity to learn what type of community support services are most needed in order to enable success in upskilling and reskilling in this space, so that when we get to the point where the ultimate vision and ultimate goal is we can offer that intensive 12-week boot camp experience to take someone to the level of entry-level technologist, we will have full sight into the type of wraparound services that are needed to enable success, and we'll have built these partnerships along the way. And we have insight into some of it, right? Like everything we've talked about, in order to be able to focus on really learning, you have to make sure you have a house, food security, childcare, all healthcare. So we know some of this, but being able to interact with the community directly in this current initiative, interact with our partners directly, is helping us better anticipate some of the challenges we may face and continue to build trust within the ecosystem in Western New York and leverage some of the great work that's already been done among some of our community partners. So it is very, very much on the forefront of our mind as we build out the Tech Academy and this resource for the community.
Roger, I'd love your thoughts on that too. How do you make workforce training available to folks with kids who maybe can't afford it? How do you open the doors?
Yeah, it is. They're hard questions, and I would just add to Sarah. Sarah covered it well. Is that not only do you have to anticipate the questions and be able to answer them, but they have to come from trusted sources, and you have to trust the answers. And so, great partners like Urban League with Cassandra in Sacramento, like the way she's doing with her city. We partner with Urban League here and other trusted partners in the community that are saying that when those questions come up, how do we answer those for individuals? And how do individuals trust the answers and know that that's coming from a good place in terms of what the answers to those questions are of if I quit one of my part-time jobs because I have 2 or 3 of them to make ends meet, how will I be able to still pay my bills and feed my family? And what's on the other side of this? If I make a commitment to do some training, what could be as a result of that? And those are really hard questions, but if you don't answer those, then we're not going to attract the right level of talent and the right individuals into the training and get the commitments that are really needed. Because I think, frankly, I'll just be frank, is that I think there are probably some broken promises there in some ways where people have made the effort and gone through upskilling and reskilling, and there really hasn't been much on the other side because the system wasn't completely working and integrated. And so again, that's the hard work, is making sure that that system is fully integrated and really providing some of the answers to those barriers. And then the last thing I would say to that is stories are really powerful. So if you start to tell stories of people and individuals who have made that journey and how they did it, then that helps those coming behind them to understand, oh, that's how I do find childcare and care for children, or that's how I take care of this, or this is how I eliminate a transportation barrier, or just those kinds of questions. Or am I really cut out for this? If I don't have a degree, am I really the person to be considered for upskilling and reskilling? And our answer is absolutely yes, but certainly getting those answers from trusted sources and then telling stories of people who have made that journey and done it successfully really help.
Cassandra, do you have any perspective on these nitty-gritty, not perfect questions? How do you make sure that you got answers to folks who are wondering, is this really for me?
Right, and we try to keep it real with them, and we know everybody's journey is different, and that's why we were able in a lot of our programs to take people through a process that they can explore whether this is for them or what challenges they may come across that we can be able to assist, because that's what we do every day, is help people deal with their barriers and the challenges to being successful. And so when we did our digital upskilling program, we wanted to make sure that we had ample resources to address. So we did have resources to buy the best computer and to get them the screens they needed. And so that was on the equipment side. But then we knew that some people would have those challenges with childcare, with utility payments. So we had some support services for that. Now, generally our programs have that, but they didn't have it to the magnitude of this. And we also had a stipend because it was a fast pace, because it was part of CARES, that we knew people had to be devoted to the success. And then when there were barriers, we were there from the local perspective to really respond. And even during COVID, sometimes they could come to our building and get assistance. So we know that people's journey will be different. And at the end, the goal is to get them that job, but sometimes it's delayed. And so we are there to work with them through the delay or the acceleration of them being connected to jobs. And it's real important to build that kind of relationship. And to the extent we have the resources, which we did in this program, it really works. And when Roger talked about telling stories, and I know we have a lot of stories, but I just remember one lady had a baby in between, and she took off the weekend, and it was a virtual sort of, well, it was virtual classes because we were in this pandemic, but she hung in there and graduated. And so that's just—
She only took off a weekend?
Huh?
She only took off the weekend?
Right. Well, it's
Who is this superwoman?
but those kinds of stories, we say if the woman can have a baby, we can hang in there and do some things when things are right, and then keep it up. So stories are important, and we want to be there to help people through it, whether it's transportation, utility payments, childcare. We have a digital assistance resource center that we have all COVID compliant. So if somebody has 5 kids at home on the internet doing distance learning and they need to do their assignment, they could come in here and be safe and have assistance, because we would dedicate one person to them. And then in our digital assistance room, we would have a person there to be able to assist if they needed it. So those are the kinds of things that we know are important to the success, especially of those who haven't really experienced that opportunity before.
So my next question, and I'll go to all of you, I'll start with Roger. How did the pandemic change your whole perspective on reskilling?
Yeah, it was interesting. Mayor Fischer commented on this one during his piece that, I can remember a big room planning session that we were in with many of our partners in a session a year ago in January. And we were talking about our big goals around upskilling and reskilling. And, just a few short weeks later, we started to roll right into the pandemic and then Breonna Taylor was killed. And so we started to go into that. We could have easily, as a partnership, said, there's just a lot going on. Let's hit the pause on this. And we didn't. We said, let's double down, as Mayor said. And we did that for a few reasons. One is the minute you delay, it just sets you back in terms of this, because skilling and skill development just takes time. You can't just wave a wand and upskill and reskill. It takes time. So that was one. And then secondly, we knew, and we started to foresee in the pandemic and other things that were going on that employees were going to be furloughed or laid off. And we thought, with the online resources that we had, what a great time to do online learning if in fact we made it available to workers who may have had time on their hands because they weren't at work. And they were thinking about their career, and they were thinking about the impacts. And so Mayor Fischer talked about the laptop challenge and the upskilling challenge that we did. We did that right at the start of the pandemic. So one is, what our learning through that is, this is a great time, and we can weather lots of disruption and things going on in the community and still do that. The second thing that we're starting to learn from specifically the pandemic is, we talked about the business case. We talked about the business case valuing the community and local companies and organizations and government in the communities, but it also attracts companies to locate not necessarily their headquarters, but maybe parts of their workforce here in the city. But with the pandemic and the availability of remote work, we're thinking about how do we upskill and reskill our community citizens so that they may be able to work for a company that's not even located here, and raise their level of income, because the amount of remote work that's happening now is significant, and we want to be part of that, part of those communities that says, what a great workforce, and we will hire people even if we're not necessarily have a physical presence there. We'll hire great talent from Louisville and let them work remotely from here and so forth. So just a lot of learnings on how people are working, where they're working, and then certainly not taking a pause on the upskilling and reskilling, because it's so important and it takes time. And people who are motivated can do it through this time and not use the pandemic as a reason for not upskilling.
Yeah, that's a great point about the remote work revolution kind of opening the doors even wider. How about you, Sarah? How did COVID change the calculus for you?
Yeah, it's really interesting. COVID hit in the midst of, we're investing to revitalize one of our buildings in downtown in the city, Seneca One, in partnership with a lot of other companies, and to create best-in-class tech and agile space. So we're in the midst of that construction, And included in that would have been is a floor dedicated entirely to the Tech Academy. So we envisioned physical learning among our technologists in this space and also community members, and then the intermingling of technologists and community members that are learning tech skills for the first time. And we really remain committed to that outcome because we do believe that there is a need for learning to some degrees and in some spaces to occur in person because there's just no substitute for that collaborative experience. But we're also not, blind to what happened when COVID hit, and that was a large motivation behind our willingness to partner with this community coalition and bring forth the digital skilling opportunities to community members impacted by COVID. And then within M&T, in terms of the upskilling and reskilling we're testing virtual delivery of that with General Assembly, our partner, in getting some really good feedback on those initial pilots. And I think that there is a broader recognition for the spectrum of learning, right? And where there is a space for the virtual delivery, where there is a need for the in-person collaboration and more of that experiential learning. And one thing I think that we'll continuously as a community have to grapple with, and I know other communities have to grapple with as well, as you look at the acceleration of the digital economy, the acceleration of the need for technical and digital skills, addressing the digital divide that we see within our communities in terms of access to internet connectivity or access to equipment is such an essential component too when we talk about skilling community members and doing it in a way that is equitable, inclusive, and mindful of, communities of color or women or historically underrepresented populations. And so that's something that we are focusing on and paying attention to and thinking about as we continue along this journey.
And then Cassandra, I'd love your thoughts too from Sacramento. How did the pandemic change things for you over there?
It changed everything. I think for us as an organization, we had to step up our game. And while we were very hands-on and come in and meet and touchy and feely, all of a sudden we had to get into the digital virtual world and make it work well. And so that really sort of accelerated our ability to utilize more tools anyway to reach more people in different ways. And as Sarah mentioned, it also then helped us deal with, we knew there was a digital divide for the people that we serve. Obviously, it was exacerbated when you look at now what is happening and when, stay-at-home kids that have to do schooling, adults that now have to learn on the computers. And then we actually have a digital literacy class because everybody that comes in for workforce development, we say you need to take the basics. Well, we needed to break that up into pieces then, because then all of a sudden we realized it's basic and some people need more skills and we need more of that. But I'll tell you the pandemic and even this, when you look for the sort of silver lining, and I think Mayor Fischer talked about it even in the racial and civic unrest, we just need to grow from that and really change things. I think for us, the partnership with the employers really is a game changer. Now, we've been around 53 years here in Sacramento, and some of our urban leagues have been around 110 years. And what works in the workforce development, if you can have a job at the end of the rainbow, right? And so if we can start preparing people for a job that's at the end, whether it's in advanced manufacturing or digital literacy or in the medical assistance field or all of those different ones, we can get people to work and we can get employers who they need to be great employees. And so what this pandemic has done is really tested the model that we've been trying to get to the whole time. And obviously says when you invest in it, it works. And the goal now is to continue it on.
So I want to just build on that silver lining piece for a few minutes. I have been reading and writing about retraining and reskilling in the reporting space for a long time. Nobody really talks about it that much. There are a few folks in different cities who are working on it, but the articles don't get that many clicks. You don't hear Washington talk about it that much. This feels like a turning point to me. I mean, the fact that we're even having this discussion, finally, even more people beyond folks like you who have been in this space for a long time are coming to the table and want to talk about reskilling. Would any of you agree with that? Are you seeing more momentum around what's going around this conversation?
Absolutely, absolutely. And unfortunately, it has to be a crisis before some people realize that we've been talking about it the whole time. And I think we got to that point. It just sort of exploded. And then it's like, oh yeah, we should have been paying attention to that. But reskilling, I mean, we've been talking about STEM, we've been talking about a lot of other things in our communities yet. And it takes this event to really turn it on. So I think it's so critical right now in our schools, as the mayor said, but we deal with a lot of adults that are in the workplace now. And with that, we need to do it. And I think with the sort of downturn, the pandemic where people lost their jobs, it did open the door for that. And so I don't want to lose that momentum now. We need to keep on that trajectory so that we can really change people's lives that better fit the economy of now and the future.
And what about you, Roger or Sarah? I mean, is something different in the air over there as well?
Go ahead, Sarah.
It's such a good question. I think that there's a real recognition that we as a country cannot be our best selves if there's only 5 cities in the nation that have all that concentration of innovation and technology. And this is really about democratizing across the US and enabling democratization of tech and innovation to some of the second-tier cities. And I think there's a real recognition that this is required when you think of the health of our nation, and a real reckoning with that. And it is, I mean, we are talking about people's lives, changing people's lives and providing opportunity and doing it on a grander scale. And I think that we can't afford to miss this opportunity to come together. And I just want to take a moment too to recognize, I think sometimes in the past it's been, here's what's happening in Buffalo, but this is not Buffalo succeeds at the expense of Louisville, or Louisville succeeds at the expense of Sacramento, right? This is an opportunity for all of these cities to think about growth, to think about tech forward innovation and tech forward workforce. And just a quick shout out to Roger. It has been such a pleasure to work collaboratively with him and his team to talk about the various initiatives that we have going in our respective cities through General Assembly, and share best practices and share learnings and share some of the common challenges we observe and how we're addressing them. And, it's great to hear of other partnerships like that exist across other cities. And I will just say, I'm so fortunate to be in Buffalo at this point in time, because the partners that we work with are so excited and so invested and coming really with good intent to the table to say, how do we make this better for our community?
And Roger, we've got a couple minutes left, but I'd love you to close us out.
Sure.
What's different now?
I'll be quick and just thank you to Sarah as well, and Cassandra. It's great to hear what the Urban League in Sacramento is doing. But the answer to your question, Erica, from my perspective, is absolutely. We're at an inflection point, and I could go really macro and say, we had the Industrial Revolution, and we are in the middle of it, the digital revolution, and we won't really know what the impact is until we look back, because we're kind of in the middle of it, I think. And I think companies, just name a company, and they're really, really needing digital and analytic skills and reskilling and upskilling from other, particularly manual type jobs and so forth, that are being automated, and just those kinds of things. And then just leave you with the last thought is that I think, well, actually, I agree with Sarah on the democratization of talent, and I see that. So I think that's helping just really with diversity and geography in terms of talent. And then what's happening at the same time is the tools are becoming easier to use. So it's actually breaking down barriers where 10 years ago, you needed to be an IT expert, or if you're in analytics, you needed to have a PhD in math. And the low code, no code tools that are coming and that are being developed is opening gateways to a whole different parts of our workforce that never thought they would be in analytics. And I can just tell you, we have a lot of jobs within our company that are analytics jobs, but they don't have analytics in their title because of the nature of their work, and they're digital jobs, and they don't have digital in their title because of the nature of their work. And so these skills and this upskilling, reskilling will be very broad-based and very broad-based from a geography standpoint. And that's what's exciting. And we are at an inflection point and see it a lot more. And I think to Mayor Fischer's point, our challenge is scaling right now.
So I want to thank all of you. What a great mix of big 30,000 foot view and then granularity at the city level. I thought it was a great conversation. So thank you, all of you. And then thank you to the audience for spending your lunch hour with us, or if you're in a different time zone, your breakfast. Yeah, thank you, everyone. It was a great conversation.
Thank you, Erica. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.